Welcome to On the Chain.
Crypto Eddie tweeted this out about JP Morgan has paid out 265 penalties. This is since 2000. We're talking about 23 years, totaling $38,991,638,319 with links to verifiable press releases from the Department of Justice, the SEC, and blah, blah, blah. Bank of America, though, Jeff, 313 penalties, $87 billion paid.
And that's not even to reference Deutsche Bank and all the others.
No. So if we pop over to here, which is the violation tracker, and we kind of like zoom in a little bit, you can see the top two. So that right there, let's do some quick math there. Where does that get us to? That gets us basically to 140, just under 140 and 135-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So what are we at? 87 billion and 38 billion?
Now we add in UBS, another $30 billion on that one. Citigroup add another $26 billion on that. Then of course, Deutsche Bank got 19 billion. Goldman Sachs at 17 billion. Goldman Sachs looks like a minor offender here. You look at this list here,
they're not
Jeff.
doing anything over there.
NatWest, you got at 14 billion. So you start adding all this up, and of course you've got your big pharma in there as well. But Morgan Stanley, 10 billion.
Man.
Again, it's some more big pharmas in there.
Insane. We're approaching probably like 300 billion.
Barclays
maybe
is
more.
in there, 7 billion. It's funny, this list, right? It's big pharma and it's sort of the big banks. Of course, you've got you got some automotive in here, but mostly health. Visa's in there too with the $6 billion. Meta, Walmart, is $5 billion. Boeing's in there, Mercedes, Novartis, Eli Lilly, Danske Bank, $2 billion. You're like, it's only $2 billion. Think about how much $2 billion was in fines. $2 billion. And if you look at their two offenses cost them $2 billion. $2
billion. So Jim D saying the penalties are all part of the good cop, bad cop theater because no one ever goes to jail.
Of course it is. And listen, if you're one of these organizations that deals with money laundering is one of the greatest things you can get into because you can openly do it. You can say, geez, I really didn't know we were doing that. Well, there was no real business. It was just shell companies. I guess we didn't do enough due diligence. So they end up making 10 billion and they pay $1 billion fine. Cost of doing business, right? 10%, 15%, whatever. They never pay any fines. Like Jim's absolutely right on this. Jim's spot on about this. And again, we talked about this. We brought this up on multiple occasions. And as you start going through this entire list, look at just New York Mellon, 1.6. They had 39 violations that totaled 1.6 billion. We had Danske Bank up there, 2 billion with just 2 offenses. Again, here we go with the big pharma again. And, even Apple's in there for 1.3 billion at 21 offenses. State, insurance companies. But again, you can kind of see Rabobank, 1.2 billion. That's a lot of money, right? If you think about the amount of money they go. But let's look at this. Let's get a little bit deeper dive. Let's just look at JP Morgan Chase here. If we're going to single out.
Can you zoom in on it? There we go.
There we go. So top 5 offenses. This is the best part right here. Look at this. Consumer protection related offenses, $8 billion and 63 violations. That's the ones that they were actually caught on, right? That's the ones that actually hit. And if like JP Morgan Chase,
amazing. It's amazing.
You can have a big cocaine bust. Was that our boat? I don't know. Who knew? Who can keep track of who's on the boat these days? They got fined. And again, the upside is almost always better. Jim D's right. Nobody ever goes to jail. It's just like, oopsies, pay the fine. Government-related, contracting-related offenses, only $600 million. The big one were financial offenses, $26 billion and 114 offenses. Top 5 primary offense types. Toxic
security abuse.
So this is getting back to what you talked about at the beginning of this, right? Here we are. We were told, Jeff, that crypto is bad and that there's securities, and everybody is using crypto. Listen, you could take it probably another 50 or 100 years, and we're probably not going to get anywhere near what's happening up until 2023 with abuses of fiat currencies, gold, any precious metals. We're not even skimming the surface there. But 11 years plus of cryptocurrencies, it's bad, Jeff. That's what Elizabeth Warren told us.
That's it. Exactly. And Crypto Whelp is saying, I just wonder for every fine they pay, how many profits did they make? Right. So if they're paying $38 billion or, you know, the toxic security fraud, 13 billion, what kind of profit was made, you know, in that same period of time they're paying? And that's staggering. I mean, for them to pay 38 billion in fine, think about where the money is coming from. First of all, where does a bank generate their revenue? They're generating their revenue from, obviously, you know, charging interest on loans. And guess who's paying for those loans? Either businesses or individuals. So all that money they're making off of us, and then they're scamming and cheating and doing all sorts of duplicitous things that they get caught on. So instead of saying, hey, you know, you guys screwed people over, why don't we find a mechanism to give the money back to the people? But no, it's the other way around. It's the government saying, hey, this is how we transfer wealth, and we're going to take money from you, and it's a way to fine you. You're not paying, you know, and there's no other tax mechanism, but this would be the other tax mechanism, is to catch them on all these little fine details. Like Jim D was saying, won't send anybody to jail. We'll penalize them, won't give the money back to the people, but we'll bring it back into the coffers of the government. And then who knows what happens to it after that.
Well, just look at these two. So investor protection and consumer protection violations together. So if you combine investor and consumer protection violations, it's just under $10 billion. Okay, $10 billion in fines since 2023. And, you know, of course, you can get into more of the so in 2013, they were fined by the DOJ for $13 billion, and then mortgage abuses. Of course, that was the meltdown from the 2008 mortgage abuse, banking violations. So you see all these things, you know, scattered in here. You know what you don't see, Jeff? You don't see anything recent. I don't see any recent dates. These are all like maybe 2018 is like the latest one.
There's 2020 from the OCC banking violation.
There's one right here.
So there's 2021 by the SEC.
Yeah.
Investor protector violation.
Charges against JP Morgan and secure a broker dealer. So what are they charged with? I'm trying to see what the actual
failure by the firm and its employees to maintain and preserve written communications.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah. That's why would you do that, Jeff? And you could tie it back to something. And point the finger at something. It's like, just let them fine us for it, and we'll just absorb it, and we'll put it in the, you know, the K10. We'll just like, well, you know, nobody knew. I'm just like, it's so funny that some of the smartest human beings on earth, and all of a sudden, geez, they become very forgetful, and I don't remember that. Nobody seems to know what happened at this juncture in space. And if we come back to the main list here, you know, B of A, gosh, they dwarf them. I mean,
that's a big number.
That's a big number, a lot of offenses. I mean, there's not too big of a difference here, but there's a big difference there. 265 versus 313 for JP Morgan and Bank of America, respectively. And you go like here, and let's see. Let's go back up to the, let's go to B of A here. So what do they have here? Let's look at, come on.
Consumer protection related.
I don't know, for somebody that can't zoom in on this. Yeah, so 44 billion in consumer protection.
Jeez.
Yikes. Financial, and then government contracted related. But again, it's, you know, the mortgage abuse really took, because they acquired what was that big mortgage, this really, they kind of took some money, like this $40 billion they took, a big hit of this came from what was it called? It was called Countywide Mortgage was the one that wrote all that bad paper. They acquired them, and then it came out later like that. So Bank of America took the hit as the parent company, but the abuses were beyond that. So that's where Countrywide is what it was called.
If you look at those bottom three, right? So mortgage abuses, but there's toxic securities. Look at the other three. Scroll back up. Banking violation, investor protection violation, and consumer protection violation. So first of all, what are the security abuses? I mean, I guess they're buying, selling, they're doing something. Investor protection violation. That is what, the governments are claiming that Coinbase and Binance and, all of these exchanges are weak on investor protection. FTX, obviously. But it's interesting to see that. So they're referencing investor protection violations. These guys are not trying to shut down JP Morgan. They're not going after them with a vengeance, saying how horrible and all the illegal things that are going on. They're fining them and they move on. For JP Morgan and Bank of America, it's obviously cost of doing business. They have a certain expectation of penalties and violations that will accrue. But then they come after Coinbase and others. What's interesting to note with all of this is what happened with FTX. And FTX seems to be the darling of certain government agencies because they're trying to do everything they can to help support FTX 2.0 to release. Again, no care over the collateral damage, which would be the retail investors. Similar to here, I don't think that these government agencies, when they come after the banks for fines or any of these entities and they fine them all these penalties, nothing. There's no reference of, hey, we're taking that 38 billion and here's how much money made it back to the people. I bet zero goes back to the people. It's a civil case. I bet zero goes back to them.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.